With the new featured exotic armors list comes fresh builds, and with it, some that are whack and some that are wild. So let's talk about nothing Manacles. When it comes to exotic perks, it doesn't get much more simple than granting an additional ability charge. While there's numerous exotics across the classes that fall into this category, like Osmiomancy, Second Chance, or Ophidia, Nothing Manacles is one of the most classic examples as it's maintained the same perk it's had since Destiny 1. If you're unfamiliar, Manacles grants you an extra scatter grenade, and it also enables tracking on its projectiles. It essentially turns your regular scatter grenade into the charge version that you can now get through Chaos Accelerant just without needing the charge. While again, it's really simple to use and build around, I've actually found Manacles to be one of the hardest exotics to write about and come to a decision on. The reason for this is because I've genuinely loved my time with Manacles, but due to the simplicity of its perk, it's left me questioning just how much of it can truly be attributed to Manacles themselves and how much is due to the subclass. Certain exotics have very clear lines between what they're contributing to a build versus what the subclass is, but when an exotic like Manacles mostly just adds another subclass ability, those lines can easily become blurred. In the end, I think what sets it apart is that it's 100% worth it to get the benefits of Chaos Accelerant without having to deal with the charge animation. The tracking projectiles from scatter grenades are fantastic, and not having to wait to charge them up means you can still make those split-second decisions you normally would to throw a grenade when you see a crowd form or when a mini-boss rounds a corner on you. In my experience, when it comes to higher difficulties, saving that second and a half can also save your life. While at the end of the day, Manacles just gives your grenade some extra juice, I think that little bump makes a world of difference, and it does so without interrupting the flow of combat, making this build both more effective and more fun to use. I normally try to not compare between exotics, but I found myself thinking a lot about my time with Controverse Hold while going through this episode. While Controverse was clearly strong, I found them extremely boring to use entirely due to the charge animation. With the amount of grenades that I was throwing, that 2-second charge added up really quickly, and in the end I was dreading every time I had to see the animation, completely killing the fun for me. Although Manacles does limit you to scatter grenades, getting rid of that charge makes them so much more fun to throw while keeping them just as strong and not completely stalling your momentum for seconds at a time. If I'm ever looking to chuck some void grenades, this will be the build I come back to, so let's talk specifics so you can see exactly what I was working with. For my first aspect, I went with Feed the Void so I could not only get Devour into the mix, but also to increase the grenade regeneration that comes with Devour. As you can see here with Feed the Void on, it takes 4 kills to completely regenerate a grenade, whereas without Feed the Void, it takes about 7 kills. Since you'll always have Devour rolling, this will ensure you'll have a grenade on hand at all times. For my second aspect, I went with Chaos Accelerant to tack on another grenade charge so I could get to a total of 3. You could absolutely go with Child of the Old Gods instead if you'd prefer, but I just wanted everything to work around my grenades, and I felt the extra charge was totally worth it. For my fragments, I went with Echo of Undermining so my grenades would weaken, which I know is a bit of a hit since it reduces your grenade stat by 20, but I think it's well worth the trade-off. 20 points of grenade over 100 is a 14% increase to damage, and weaken is a 15% increase, so they balance each other out, but the great thing about weakening is you can take advantage of it with every other part of your kit, from your super to your weapons. I also went with Echo of Expulsion to add an explosion on ability kills for some extra juice, as well as Echo of Persistence to maximize my Devour uptime. Finally, Echo of Instability gives your Void weapons volatile rounds on grenade kills, which was perfect paired with my exotic weapon of choice, being Graviton Lance. Graviton is not only an all-around beast of a pulse rifle, but it also causes explosions with its perk Cosmology. As you can see here, Cosmology has a slight delay to its explosion, which gives just enough time for volatile rounds to activate right before. With everything together, it's an onslaught of void explosions and debuffs, which all feeds back into each other by activating Devour to keep you healed up and regenerating your grenades at a blistering pace. For armor mods, I'd recommend Ashes to Assets to get extra super generation on grenade kills, as well as grenade fonts to help up your damage. If you wanted, you could also use Firepower to get orbs off of grenade kills, but I felt like I was generating enough orbs with a Void Siphon and Graviton that I just went with 2 grenade fonts instead. Alternatively, if you wanted to generate more orbs, you could swap out Echo of Expulsion for Echo of Harvest so you could get orbs when you defeat weakened targets. For my armor set, there isn't anything that specifically synergizes with grenades, so I ended up going with Last Discipline for the extra reload speed and special ammo generation. For my stats, I wanted to get my grenades to about 150 with fonts so that they did a good extra bit of damage, but I also wanted to keep my weapons as close to 200 as possible. I ended up settling with a 123 grenade stat with 2 fonts for 163 total and a 41% increase in damage. For my style, I found myself using my grenades to mostly clear crowds of red bars or to weaken larger targets before using a damage rotation with my weapons, so I didn't think my grenades needed to hit any harder than they already were. In the end, I chose to prioritize my weapon stat first, but if you wanted to put more points into grenades so you could use them on larger targets, that would work just as well. There isn't much in the artifact mod that synergizes all that well with Void this season, but Elemental Overdrive is nice to get an extra 10% weapon damage whenever you pick up a Void Breach, as well as Elemental Coalescence for extra chances to spawn one. I also went with Argent Quiver since I was using Submersion as my heavy weapon, and Pack Tactics and Energy Acceleration so I could stun Unstops with Mint Retrograde. For the game plan, you'll want to start off the fight by throwing a grenade to kill a target so you can activate Devour and Volatile rounds. Afterwards, start slaying out with Graviton so you can clear adds and spread Volatile around the room, while chucking grenades into clusters of enemies or using them to weaken majors. The more enemies you kill, the healthier you'll be, and the more grenades you'll have to throw. If you're up against a boss, hit them with a grenade to weaken them before you super, and throw them out as you go through your DPS rotation to keep that damage up. And that's just about it. Like I mentioned, it's simple, but it's fun. I really loved my time with this build, and I think it fits my playstyle perfectly, which in all honesty is because it's so simple. As I've mentioned in a few other episodes, I know that I just like to shoot my guns, and I love builds that complement that idea as opposed to overriding it. In my opinion, what Destiny does best is that relationship between your abilities and your weapons, and it's why I love build crafting as much as I do. Something as simple as throwing a grenade can lead to this incredible interaction between so many system mechanics, from debuffs to weapon perks to armor sets, that it turns that simple idea of using an ability into something much more complex and interesting. When I first started working on this episode, I thought that Nothing Manacles' simplicity was a downside, and that it would take away from it feeling truly exotic. But in the end, I've found it to be the exact opposite. That simplicity isn't the loss of something complex, but rather the removal of anything unnecessary. Manacles has stood the test of time, where after a decade of evolutions in Destiny, it shows just how powerful simplicity can be. I'm glad that I had the experience I did with Nothing Manacles, and they're absolutely an exotic I'll be returning to in the future. They're strong, they're fun, they're a classic, and in my opinion, they're wild. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Just want to mention I'll be streaming on Twitch every Wednesday to Sunday starting at 7 p.m. Eastern over at twitch.tv/callmekimbo_. There's a link in the description, and I'm going to be playing some Destiny this weekend to top off my gear for the season, so if you're interested, I'd love to have you by. There's also a dim link down below if you want to give my exact build a try, or if you want to use it as the base for your own spin on it. Subscribe to the channel to keep an eye out for more videos soon, and let me know in the comments what you think of Nothing Manacles.